Hey, I just wanted to make this tutorial because I was doing something with icicles and I wanted to make the objects appear upon points on a curve instead of having to Control C, Control D them everywhere. And I didn't find like a really good, concise tutorial on it with the geometry nodes and all that stuff, so I just wanted to do it here. So you get whatever, you can do this on a circle, you can do it on a path, as long as it's like a line, or I mean, you can do it with objects too, but I'm doing it on a line just for an example, and also because that's what I'm doing right now in my project. This isn't like a new project. So I'm gonna go to edit mode, scale on the Y, set it to 0. If I can press the 0 on my keyboard, there we go. It's another even, and we're just gonna subdivide it. What the fuck? Sorry. I had like the weird dangly bits selected as well. So we're gonna subdivide it. Let's do it 3 times, why not? So now we have 1, 2. I don't know why it's subdividing so weird, but it is what it is, as long as there's points on it. So then you're going to get whatever object you want. I'm using these icicles. They don't look really great because I haven't like really finished them, but I'm using those for mine. But I'm just going to use a default cube for this, but the same general, like principle remains. So you're gonna get your cube or whatever object you want. It's up in here, and then we're gonna click on our curve, add a modifier, geometry nodes, click new. If you already have something on here, you don't have to click new. Just enter it through geometry nodes, or you can layout under here, and then it should be right here in geometry node editor. I just like to go here because it's an easy shortcut. So we're going to disconnect the output. We're going to create a instance on points. We're going to take instances to the geometry. And as our instance, we're going to use a cube. Instance basically just means an object that already exists, or a shape or something, and you're just creating it upon, in this case, the points. There's also a couple other instances. Well, actually, no, it's just points. 2 points, but there's also like ways you can mess with it, scale instances and all that stuff. So you just drag your geometry, connect that to the instance, and then this looks kind of stupid. So we want them to be smaller, but like, what if we want them to be randomized? Because that's what I'm doing here. Because obviously, to make it look natural, you're not going to have them be the same exact thing over and over. You're going to have it be slightly randomized along the length, but you don't want to Control C, Control V, mess with the Z axis on all of them. You can do it way easier. You just take your scale, drag that out, noise texture, and then so you can tell the scale. That messes with the randomness. I think this will give you, no, it won't. I assumed it would give you details on it, but I guess not. So you might like go into here and be like, oh, okay, so these squares are too big. I want them to be smaller. And you're like, oh, wait a second. It's not scaling down when I scale my cube. That's because it's based off of the vertices on this cube, or it's based off of the size of these vertices on here. So when you shrink it, it's like, oh, but you don't want them to shrink like that. So you can manually shrink them. No, you can't. Wait, I'm losing it. No. You can shrink them like this by using object mode, but then they're all still staying connected. So, and the other way you do it is just going to here with object mode, press A, scale down. And then these will scale up and down slightly based off of the, let me click it. Where did it go? Oh, it's because we're in edit mode. So the scale of these, you would think it's the scale, right? But not really. It's the scale right here is the scale of like how much distance and like smoothing there is in the white. Detail is also like is how hard the lines are. If you're imagining it, if you want a better like way of imagining it, it's essentially just using this right here, but it's just taking a singular line of it and then going, how white is it, how dark is it, and then changing it to this. So that's essentially what this is doing. So if you want to change how random the size is, you either want to change this, or you can unnormalize it, which means normalizing will basically just mean it doesn't go below -1. It stays at 0 and above. Actually, no, it stays at between 0 and 1. So you can unnormalize it and then increase distortion and scale. But this is essentially, this is 0.5. I think that's how Blender does it. I could be completely wrong. But this is 0.5, so going down to 0, essentially, let me put this on. So normalize will make it go into the negative, so they'll get really small. When you have it normalized, it'll only go to 0 and 1. So it only can get so much smaller and bigger. And then you can always like drag scale and put it into something else. Like, wait, no, I think I did that wrong. But you get the general idea. Changing the randomness is a little weird with it. That just is what it is. But most of the time, this is all you really need. And you can just make it bigger or smaller. And the bigger you make this, the more potential this can have on the scale factor to make it like big or small. I think I have to apply the. Also, yeah, if you're actually, let me see if I can mess this up on purpose. Okay, I can't. If you're having like an issue where your objects are like weird and they're long or they're wide or they're taller, all you have to do is click your curve, apply all transform. I usually just do all transforms. But I think all you need to really do is apply scale. That will shrink your stuff down because it's essentially just, instead of increasing the size, the imaginary size of these vertexes, it's just it's applying it so the vertexes are back to just being a small point in the void, and it's just back to the 0.5 to the 1 thing. And then, as far as I know, you can't really affect the size of it in edit mode as much as I've tried to. Obviously moving the points and all that stuff will move it a little bit. It will make your curve disappear, because technically the input and output, it's no longer there, so you don't have to worry about making it invisible. It doesn't exist anymore. Alright, I think that's pretty clear enough. Still trying to yeah, just, I mean, obviously you can probably assume this. If you extrude or make a new point, it'll automatically create a new cube on it. Or if you just move them at all. But scaling edit mode doesn't do anything. Let me see if applying the scale does anything. Just before I close this out. Yeah, no. Yep. And if you need them to be bigger, but you don't want them to be so spread apart, you can just do that and then scale them down in edit mode and bring them closer to each other, and just don't apply scale, or else you're just gonna make them return to their OG size. Alright.